This is the perfect RIA, in case you didn't know. Bringing you all the strategies to help your business grow. Are you happy? Are you satisfied? Are you hanging on the edge of your seat? Sit back and listen in while you feel the beat, yeah! Another myth bites the dust.
Hello, TPR Nation. This is Amber Kuhn from The Perfect RIA. Thank you for joining me on today's Follow-Up Friday, where I'll be covering the highlights and action items from this week's episodes. Matt and Micah kicked off Monday's episode talking about advisors who feel that they need more clients to implement Surge, that they're putting off creating processes and streamlining things until they get to a certain point. Like I said, we get into this aspect of playing office and aren't creating a process of success. So the guys spent Monday going through the prospect process and some simple things that you may not think about, but they can have a big impact on your prospects. Matt said when he's a coaching call, he'll look at the advisor's website, and one of the first things he checks is to see if there's a way to get on the calendar. When he sees a lot of openings, that tells him that they're running a reactive practice. He said that if a type of person that has the wealth to work with you is going on your calendar, they have a busy life. And when they see that you don't have a busy life, alarm bells are going off everywhere. Micah added that this is subconscious, but it's also why for his Surge, his client meetings are back to back. So there may be some overlap where clients see each other. He wants to show that they aren't his only clients. The guys talked about how the client and prospect experience should be, including setting expectations. They said that you have to create this really powerful client experience that makes it easy to make an educated and informed decision about your practice. So the prospect process is something that every advisor needs, and you want to make this a top-notch experience. And it starts well before the prospect ever shows up in your office. They said that first, it starts on your website or on your social media. What experience are they having before they even contact you? Then, when they move on to contacting you, what are they seeing? You want to set the clearest expectations of what they can expect to happen. For Micah, when someone reaches out, that includes setting expectations of when they'll hear back from someone. Matt added that you need to do this with every communication. Set clear expectations with how the call or the meeting is going to go. He starts every prospect meeting with, "This is what's going to happen today," and then ends with, "Just like I said, here's what we're going to do." Micah charges for his initial consultation, and he sets expectations at that meeting that at the end of the hour, they're going to see where they can go, whether they want to work together or if they have the tools to implement things on their own. When he gets questions about fees during the meeting, he'll address it. They'll discuss it at the end. His goal is to deliver massive value, whether they hire him or not. Matt shared another way to deliver massive value, which is to say, Mr. and Mrs. Client, the process we're going to walk you through is also the process you can use to evaluate any other financial planner you're considering. You also want to make sure that the prospect knows what the next steps are. Matt said this is also important when you're moving into that onboarding process. Micah also wants to explain the first full year. He'll constantly remind them, but this is where he wants to set this expectation. He'll go over what the meeting schedule will look like, his communication policy, what's good and bad, and how it's beneficial to the client. He said now is the time to set all of these standards to be able to adhere to going forward. He'll also talk about empowering the team in those communication standards and let the client know that if you have any questions, the team is empowered to help you. Matt said that you're not trying to do a sales pitch to prospects. You're educating them. If you're trying to sell them, people are going to know what you're trying to do. He wants the client to have honest expectations and also know what they're getting. Micah will also go through their process of success. So if a client wants to go outside of this, he'll explain that he has a process set up for a reason. He loves naming that concept so clients know what it is. Matt shared that part of that is that they know what the next step will be. In his office, they have the sleep on it process, which is to go home, sleep on this, and know that you'll likely wake up and have questions. So what he'll do is schedule another meeting to answer those questions, or if they decide that they want to work with him, they can then start that paperwork. Micah said that you have to set the next follow-up communication. for him, if they want to move forward, they'll set up a follow-up appointment. But if they're just thinking about things, then Victoria in his office will follow up with them. Matt said that advisors get stuck in this idea that they have to overcome objections. His mindset hack is that there are places where people haven't been properly educated, or they just aren't the right fit. He also includes a list of questions that most people ask and includes their own answers. So what happens when a prospect says yes? The guy said that you should celebrate this with a team because this is a team win. You also need to have a simple way to track with your team to see where clients are in their process. Let's get into action items from Monday's episode. For our members, be sure to watch some of our past power sessions on the prospect process, which is within the member site. And for our listeners, we also have a lot of podcasts that you can listen to as well on theperfectra.com. Sign up for our next Nation Power Session on March 29th. This will be the one big mistake that is keeping you from doubling. And then in writing on your website, what is your prospect process? You need to make sure that you're setting expectations and also figure out when is that hard close during your prospect meeting, and then address that. And you have to have full conviction in your goal in the meeting. On this week's What Works Wednesday, Matt was joined by John Mason from Mason Associates in Newport News, Virginia. Matt had seen a presentation that John did at a conference where he focused on Surge, so Matt and John went into detail on how Surge works in his office. John does Surge a little differently from how Matt and Micah do theirs, but John said it's important to figure out what works for you. He said he hasn't had any negative feedback from when they switched from doing reviews throughout the year to then compressing them. He encourages his clients to do virtual meetings and shared that during his last Surge, less than 10 were in person. He said, "We're not scared of humans, but we really do believe in those virtual Surge meetings." For their last Surge cycle, they did 350 meetings at a team. For their next one, he said they'll go from April to May with about 100 per advisors and 17 meetings a week. They use the word surge internally, but with clients, they call it the strategic planning meeting season. John then shared what the year looks like for his firm. He said that every January, they send out a physical mailer, which informs the clients of when they're doing their meetings and what the next steps are, and then how to schedule with their advisors. He shared that in Q1, they're prepping for their surge meeting, Q2 is executing surge, Q3 is their implementation mode, and then Q4 is wrapping up end-of-year tax planning. So they have multiple touch points throughout the year. John added that sometimes they have 2 advisors in a meeting and that they're implementing a succession plan as well, and believe that Surge also helps with that because it allows other team members to learn their processes and also form a relationship with the clients. Matt and John wrapped up the episode by talking about how there hasn't been a roadmap. They said sometimes the next step isn't so easy. And Matt added that there isn't necessarily a destination. You never fully reach the summit, but you're always looking for how to get better with what you're doing. Let's get into action items from Wednesday's episode. Start small, start now. Take that one good idea and implement it. And it's okay if you make mistakes, but start making those small incremental changes in your business today. And don't let perfect get in the way of good enough. You're trying to be perfect, but sometimes you just have to do something. On this week's Worlds to Conquer, Jamie spent the episode going into detail with what Surge looks like at Shalansky & Associates. Jamie talked about where Surge started for them and how they began implementing it. At their office, once they started working in time-blocked periods and everyone was meeting during specific dedicated times, she said it created an amazing experience. So they've been perfecting what Surge is ever since. Jamie said that if you take one step that will transform your business, it's implementing Surge. She said that Surge has specific rules, and you need to understand how, when, and why you need to implement certain techniques inside of Surge to make it effective. Jamie talked through their Surge schedule, which is determined a year or more in advance. There's also no time off during Surge. She said because this would break what they're trying to create, which is to deliver as much value as possible during a very hyper-focused block of time. She said having employees in and out would be disruptive to this. They'll also start as early as 7 a.m. for their meetings, and their last appointment is no later than 4 p.m. Alaska time. For the financial advisors, about 1 to 2 weeks in advance of Surge, they need to have all of their client preparation done for the first couple of weeks of Surge. Phone appointments are done in 30-minute blocks with a 15-minute break in between. And in-person meetings are about an hour long. And something that is so important is that appointments must end on time. Jamie shared what the client experience feels like when they first walk into the office. She said the office looks like a living room, and they always have hot cookies, water, coffee, tea, and then a TV that plays pictures from everyone in the organization. This helps to show that family is the most important thing. Now, prior to Surge, the relationship managers are running the calendar and they're sending all the documents to the clients that the financial advisor is asking for, and then they'll upload those to Box.com. The relationship managers will go to the clients and say, in preparation for your appointment, are there any questions that you'd like to ask your financial advisor? Those questions then get added to Infinity, they're tagged to their appointment, and all the documentation related to it is added there. That lets the financial advisor know what's going on in the client's mind. Surge goes between 4 to 6 weeks, and she said no longer because you can't keep your team in a perpetual surge because they have to operate at a very high level. Another important part of Surge is about a week before, you want to do a dress rehearsal with everyone physically in the office. This is where you can work out all those kinks. You don't want to deal with that the morning of Surge. Jamie spent some time discussing dictation following client meetings. She'll do all of her dictation after the last client appointment of the day. She doesn't wait to do this until she gets home because she wants to be present once she's there. And Jamie said you need to be crystal clear in your dictation on what needs to be done, and what the tasks are, and to whom. Jamie also discussed what Surge looks like for the relationship managers and the operations team. The relationship managers will start to be really busy about 2 weeks before Surge. And then during Surge, she said when a client comes in, the relationship manager is up and out of their seat. She said phones are redirected to a relationship manager who isn't up at the front so that they can communicate directly with the client. They're listening for opportunities to anticipate needs and desires from the client. And that way they know that they're celebrating the client's lives. They'll also get the dictation from the advisor, and then as Surge concludes, their work starts to dissipate, and then it shifts over to the operations team. And the operations team, they're responsible for the movement of money. A lot of operational work will be generated during Surge. Now, Jamie stressed one of the rules in their office, which is no same-day paperwork, because she said it doesn't create a good client experience. She said that most tasks that go to the operations team, unless they're critical, will come through in a memo. And that even when Surge ends, operations is still getting tasks from those memos, so their work doesn't end there. Let's get into action items from Thursday's episode. Implement Surge. Take the Surge schedule that has been shared by Jamie in the Perfect RIA. It will allow you to be at your highest level of performance. Do a dress rehearsal. Make sure that everyone is in the appropriate clothing. Get everything ready as if a client is coming in, even down to making sure that those pens work. And then you need to look at the way that you're processing your memos. Use the SOAP guide that Jamie has shared, and don't assume that your team automatically knows dates and deadlines. That wraps up this week's recap. Thank you for joining me on today's Follow-Up Friday. Be sure to give us 5 stars wherever you're enjoying this podcast, and share this or any of our episodes with another advisor or a team member who you think might benefit from listening. And until next time, happy planning.
Hold on before we go. Something that you need to know. This isn't tax, legal, or investment advice. That isn't our intent. Information designed to change lives. Financial planning can make you thrive. Start today, don't think twice. Be a better husband, father, mother, and wife. The Perfect RIA, the Perfect RIA.